My partner and I recently upgraded our Nikon Z50 to a Z5 Mark II, which is filming me right now. I said in my last video that I wanted to make a more in-depth comparison of these two cameras, so here that is. And we took them both out on a shoot and got some photo and video with them, so we're going to take a look at that and see how that went. But first, let's just look at some of the physical differences between these two cameras. The Z50, of course, is a much smaller and more compact camera, but I do find that it still has a pretty comfortable and substantial grip. So for a camera of this size, I've always been fairly impressed with it. Now, the Z5 Mark II has a much bigger and deeper grip. It feels great to hold on to. It's actually just much bigger in general, thus allowing for a few extra buttons, a joystick, AF on button, that kind of thing, and separate zoom buttons. The Z50 does actually have separate zoom buttons, but they're part of this kind of touch display part of the screen here. The Z50 has one SD card slot in the battery compartment. The Z5 Mark II has a separate memory card door with two SD card slots within, although, to be fair, I haven't actually used the second card slot yet, personally, but I hear it's nice to have. You also get a few upgraded ports on the side of the Z5 Mark II. You get USB-C rather than the old micro one on the Z50, and you get a headphone port as well as a mic port, which is nice. The Z5 II also has a bigger battery capacity-wise, but later on in the video, I'm going to get more into how that actually compares performance-wise. Does it translate? And they actually both have forward-facing flippy LCD screens, but they have quite different designs. I actually personally always quite like the idea of these sort of flip-down ones that the Z50 has, because if you are filming with it like this, I think that looking down at the screen to check your composition looks more natural than looking off to the side like that. So there's maybe something to be said for that. The problem is I very rarely ever shoot like this. Most of the videos I've made up until this point, the camera's been on a tripod, so with this on a tripod, it just, no. To be fair, I've mostly just used SnapBridge in the past though, and just monitored the shot on my phone, which works absolutely fine for me. The Z50 does actually have a built-in flash as well, which can actually come in quite handy at times for a little fill light, and we've actually used it to trigger bigger flashes off camera as well, which does actually work really nicely, so maybe something to think about. Now for arguably the most significant difference between these two cameras, the sensor. I know the names can be a little bit confusing, but the main point is that the Z5 Mark II has a much bigger sensor, which comes with a lot of benefits. While the resolution may not be that much different between these two particular cameras, the Z5 Mark II will give you a wider field of view and let in more light, which could lead to better image quality overall. And this also has IBIS, which is in-body image stabilization, which is lovely. And at the time of recording this at least, Nikon put IBIS into all of their full-frame mirrorless cameras and none of their APS-C ones. I should say a lot of this comparison might seem more video-focused than photo-focused. This is just because that's where the main differences actually stand out to me at least. So now looking in a bit more detail at some of the video modes within these two cameras, one of the things that actually really drew me to the Z50 to begin with is the fact that none of the video modes have a crop, meaning that you get the full width of your lens in all of the modes. It doesn't crop in or anything like that. And the Z5 Mark II is similar. It actually only has a crop in two modes, which is the 4K 50 and 60 frames per second. So I actually really like that about both of these cameras. The Z5 Mark II does have a lot more advanced video features though. We'll get more into that as we look more at some example footage. But the main reason for that is the upgraded XPEED 7 processor from the Z50's XPEED 6. And for Dora and I, it's definitely been the second biggest benefit to upgrading to this camera after the sensor size. You get way more advanced autofocus features, faster shooting speeds, burst speeds, and just snappier performance all around. I thought it might be worth mentioning at this point that I'm well aware that there is also a Z50 Mark II, which is definitely a much closer comparison to this camera. It's essentially the same as this one, except it has the updated processor which is in the Z5 II, which comes with it a lot of the same features like the faster speeds, 10-bit video, 4K 60, updated autofocus system and all the rest of it. But this is the camera that I have, and I really want to see how these two compare. So basically what I'm saying is this is an entirely selfish endeavor. Well, it's all tests that I really wanted to do anyway, so I thought I might as well make a video about it. And I'm actually out right now trying to get some nice comparison stills for these two cameras, but the weather, as you might be able to see, is looking a bit not so good. Let's see, hopefully we get something decent. But yeah, like I said, we took both of these cameras out on a shoot to get some real world examples, so enough talking from me, let's get to those. Okay, now for some more talkings.
Today at the Puutilan Kartano there's this happening called the Vintage Market, and it's a event where a lot of different vintage sellers come to sell their whatever they have, and it's always been really nice event because I feel like all the vendors are so positive and so nice, and I love shooting all the like small details that I can find. So yeah, let's see what I come up with.
All right, we're going to go in now, and so I'm going to need to switch the gimbal over to vertical mode because we're going to be doing mostly social media stuff today. So yeah, go in and start shooting.
See you soon.
We tried to get similar kind of shots with similar focal lengths with both the cameras, just so it would be a better comparison. But we did also have a job to do, so we had to focus on that. Pun absolutely intended. We're not staging anything. This really happened. And for all of the following comparisons, the Z5 Mark II is going to be on the left-hand side of the screen, and the Z50 is all going to be on the right-hand side of the screen, just so that you know that. All of these clips are shot in 1080p at 60 frames per second, just because that's what we were shooting on the day for the video that we were making. But what I'm seeing from these videos is that they both look pretty good. You can see a little bit of difference between the color rendering, but that could be down to the difference in color profile, it could be down to the lens. But I am interested to see if that changes when we get to some of the more controlled tests a bit later on. Let's see. I don't know, there is maybe just something about the kind of full frame look, like a richness or a depth to it somehow. Maybe I'm just imagining it, I don't know. I guess it would make sense if there's more dynamic range and just more light gathering capabilities in general. But for the purpose of this, I'm really not seeing a whole lot of difference. But I do think that some of the lower light shots that we did indoors do have a sort of cleaner look to them, which again is to be expected with something with better lower light capabilities. But yeah, overall we were really happy with the results that we got that day. Shooting done. And Dora, how has the battery held up?
If I turn it on now, it's like...
Yeah, so like 1 bar left. Interesting.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What did you...
Someone just asked about the gimbal and where I bought it from. But yeah, so actually the Z50 is still rocking full battery, but then again, I didn't use it anywhere near as much.
Yeah.
The Z50 might be a tiny bit better battery life overall.
I wonder about that too, but at the same time, like I did say, I didn't do a great job of trying to preserve the battery. What I would maybe normally do.
I guess, yeah. So to do a bit of further testing, I did actually do a side-by-side battery test where I just recorded on the exact same mode with both cameras, recording 4K footage, just to see how long they would last. The Z50 has a 30-minute record limit, so there was quite a lot of stopping and starting involved with that. But the results were, after about nearly 2 hours of shooting continuously, the Z50 actually overheated, which I didn't expect, to be honest. I did manage to restart it a couple of times and get a few more minutes out of it, but ultimately it was around that 2 hour mark that I couldn't do any more. So at that point, the Z5 Mark II still had about 1 bar worth of battery life left on it. So that was enough of a test for me. Next up, I'm going to take a look at those stills that I took on that very gale force day. This first set of photos, I was shooting on the 40mm f2 Z lens on the Z5 Mark II, and to give a similar relative perspective and focal length on the Z50, I was shooting on the 24mm f1.7 DX lens. So again, I'll put these side by side. I tried to get them as similar as possible, but you can see straight away here that there is quite a color difference between the two cameras. And there seems to be kind of quite a bit more contrast on the Z50. These are just straight out of camera raw files, all with the same settings, by the way. No edits whatsoever. But now let's compare. I did actually try and shoot the same scene on the 40mm lens on the Z50 as well, just for fairness sake. So obviously I had to step back quite a bit, and the perspective and the compression therefore is going to be a little bit different. But here's what I got with that. Again, comparing these two, I'm seeing difference in color. I mean, it was out in the real world, so the lighting did, of course, keep changing as well, so that could contribute to this. But overall, I'm seeing the Z50 seems to just have a bit more of a contrasty look to it than the Z5 Mark II. And you can sort of see that kind of higher dynamic range sort of look. But the detail though, if we're zooming in at 200% looking at this tree, which I'm never doing, the sharpness and the detail on both the cameras looks pretty good to me and quite similar, to be honest. Obviously you are getting a couple more megapixels of resolution with the Z5 Mark II, but I'm not sure you can really tell the difference. To me anyway. Maybe just a tiny bit sharper overall. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. The second photo that I took was with the Z105 f2.8 macro lens on both of the cameras. Again, I tried to get these photos as similar as I could, but it's not always easy when you're changing essentially the focal length each time. Sharpness wise, I think this time I am seeing a little bit of an edge with the Z5 Mark II, especially if you look at the details of the leaves and things. But again, not too much difference. Again, the Z50 image does look a lot more contrasty, but then again, I do remember when I switched to the Z50 that the sun came out a lot brighter, so of course it is going to be more contrasty. Sharpness wise, maybe I would give the edge just to the Z5 Mark II, but really quite similar, to be honest, if I'm just looking at these finer details on the leaves and things. Again, zooming into 200%, so... But overall, the photos on both I think look great. The colors straight out of the camera are slightly different, but I think you could match them quite easily if you needed to. These are also all shot at ISO 100. I think you can see the dynamic range bonus a little bit of the Z5 Mark II, and I'm sure if you got heavily into editing, that's where you would really see the differences. But for the purpose of this, I'm kind of surprised there isn't a bigger difference, to be honest. Interesting. And actually this is a little bit of an experiment too. I'm shooting in the flat color profile, by the way, just to see how that is. And I'm shooting in natural light because in the Finnish summertime, we have no shortage of that. But I'm actually shooting tethered to my laptop. In fact, I'll show you the setup that I have. It's quite cool, actually. I think this is a feature that isn't really talked about enough. I'm just tethered with USB-C into my laptop. And if I show you this, so there's my monitor. I'm using Nikon's NX Tether software, and you have the ability to monitor yourself like this. You have pretty much full control over the camera. A lot of different features. You can you can do redundant recording to card and to an external hard drive, which I know isn't much use in the field, but in here it's quite handy. I've done that before, it works great. You can actually use this on the Z50 as well, but with very limited features. You can't even do the live view thing. But yeah, I think this is a pretty cool feature for a studio setup like this. I'll probably be using it quite a bit in here, I think, especially if I just want to record straight to my SSD or something. Onward to the more in-depth video comparisons that I did. These are the modes that I was the most interested in comparing because they're the ones that I plan to use the most on these cameras. Again, selfish. I'm on auto ISO and auto white balance because that's the most common way I use these cameras. When I'm filming in here, I might set a white balance, but generally I leave it mostly on auto, to be honest. The shot's in a simple, controlled lighting situation with just one light. Same lens, same aperture, same settings, as close as I could get them. On the Z50, I've always used the flat color profile, which gives you kind of balanced colors, but also gives you a bit of room for a little bit of grading afterwards. So I really like that. And so most of the tests on the Z5 II, I'm also using the same flat profile. And I've matched all the little tweaks and things that I've done in camera to that profile as well. So let's check it out. Me on the guitar. So here we've got the video straight out of camera with absolutely no changes whatsoever to it, which isn't really how the flat profile is intended to be used. So next here it is with just some small tweaks, just to get them to match a little bit closer and to give them a look that would be closer to what I would be aiming for. And what I'm noticing straight away from all of these tests is that the Z50 definitely has like a look to it, I think. I'd say the Z5 Mark II is a bit more accurate to how the scene actually looked in real life, and the colours are maybe a little bit richer and deeper. But I think the Z50 is pleasing as well in its own way, to be honest. The sharpness looks pretty good on both to me. And then just so that we can see in more detail, zoomed into 200%, which I would probably never do, but you can just get a better idea of kind of the sharpness and the noise patterns and things like that. And when you're this zoomed in, I would say that I can see a bit of a sharpness bonus to the Z5 Mark II for sure, and a bit of a lower noise floor as well, which you would expect. But honestly, not as big of a difference as I expected. But about the Z50 having a bit of a different kind of look to it, because I'm shooting in 10-bit color on the Z5 Mark II because it's capable of that, whereas the Z50 only shoots in 8-bit. So I thought maybe I'll just test it out and see if that's what it is. So I switched the Z5 Mark II into 8-bit to see if that made any difference. And to be quite honest, here it is with no changes whatsoever, then the same light adjustments, and then here it is zoomed right in. Again, the differences are still there, so that's interesting. Next, I wanted to compare the 1080p 60 frames per second, because like you probably know by now, Dora and I use that mode quite a lot for the kind of videos that we make. So here we are with the light adjustments. Both looking fairly similar to me. It looks like the white balance is doing slightly different things, but I think the same differences are still there. If we zoom in, I think the sharpness is pretty comparable, to be honest. Similar amount of detail, but definitely a significant amount more noise and grain in the Z50. I think with YouTube compression, you might not see the noise the same way, but that's what I'm seeing here. And then finally, I thought I'd just do kind of the best that each camera is capable of, that I would use anyway. So in this case on the Z5 II, it's the 10-bit oversampled 420 in N-Log, and on the Z50 it's the same, just 4K 25 frames per second. And then with the N-Log, I've just done like a straight conversion, and then I've just done some similar kind of light basic adjustments to the image. Yeah, and I think here now you can see the benefits of the higher dynamic range that the log gives you. I think you can definitely see a more detailed image in the Z5 Mark II with kind of richer colors. Although I am still debating if log is really worth the extra workflow for most of what I do, but... And then zooming in, yeah, the differences are obviously much more apparent now. I'm definitely seeing a much more detailed image from the Z5 Mark II. Although I am seeing a little bit more noise now, but I suppose that's only normal. Still, the noise on the Z50 is just kind of a bit more blotchy and unpleasant. These are all things that I expected, to be honest. So I think from these video tests, I'm actually quite surprised at how little difference there is between the two, to be honest. I suppose that shows that the Z50 is still a pretty decent video camera. Although you are getting a better quality image with the Z5 II in some modes, the differences in this kind of controlled environment aren't as big as I expected. But yeah, what do you think? Did you have a preference between the two? Would you be fine with the quality coming out of the Z50? Let me know in the comments, and if you have any other thoughts, do share those too. I actually did a bunch more tests as well, like different video modes, different lenses. I put the Z5 Mark II into its DX crop mode just to see how the two compared in that. I also shot a bit in the 4K 60 mode and even in NRAW. I didn't include any of these in this video because it was already getting really long, but would you want to see any of those other comparisons? Do let me know. But in conclusion, I think the Z5 Mark II definitely does feel like a pretty significant upgrade for us. We're both really happy with the results that we're getting and have got so far with the camera, and as we tweak more and learn more about it, they're only getting better. The autofocus system is way more advanced, there are more modes, it's quicker, snappier. The 3D tracking and subject detect modes are really good. Like, it's crazy how dark it has to get before it'll stop finding your eye with the autofocus. And whilst I've rarely personally found the need to go above about 5 frames per second in stills modes, I appreciate the quicker burst modes on here as an option. And the camera in general is just kind of quicker and snappier to use, it just feels faster. And the IBIS, the feature that I didn't really expect would be much, has been already a huge bonus. And the complete inverse of that is the N-Log, where I thought I'd be using that all the time, and I'm now like, oh, do I even need it? For most things anyway, I'm still kind of undecided with it. And I've had some problems with it in post as well, but I think that's probably best saved for another video. But both of these cameras can definitely still do the job though. But as you might have gathered, I am quite curious about the Z50 Mark II, because a lot of the upgrades that you get in this camera are also in that one. It's the same processor, like I said. And the Z50 is a fairly significantly smaller, lighter, and cheaper camera. So I definitely still recommend it or the Z50 Mark II, especially as a kind of starter camera. I suppose that's just about everything that I could think of covering for this video, but let me know if you have any other thoughts or points and other things you want to see compared. I really hope you found this video useful or interesting. If you did, please do give us the old like button click. And if you'd like to subscribe, that would be very much appreciated if you like what we're doing on this still very new channel. We have a lot of different ideas for videos here, so we're really looking forward to trying some of those out. But until then, see you next time. Sorry, I'm just laughing because the image that's been staring at me on my screen for the past about 10 minutes is this one of me. Hello.